decent average return to begin with. So I'm going with Isner versus Wawrinka in the other fourth-round match. Wawrinka versus Isner, I think, is an actual slight advantage to Isner because Wawrinka in the past has struggled against guys with big serves. And I think Isner and his serve, I think Isner's got a really good chance to make the quarters here. He's himself even admitted that this is probably a tournament he's got a good shot at winning because think about it. If Isner is serving big, then quite frankly, there's nothing you can do about it. I know Jarko Niemann and Daniel Smithhurst don't exactly inspire a lot of confidence in wins. Lopez would be somewhat of a good one considering this, but Wawrinka's good enough to beat the guys he should beat on grass, but against the guys who are bigger servers and the guys with bigger forehands, I think he'd struggle. And the fact that Isner can hit his kick serve and come in behind it, that is even more daunting. So I think even though Wawrinka winning the Australian, having the year he had, winning the Monsters in Monte Carlo, I still think for right now, I think Isner's a better grass court player and plays on this surface better. I'm going with Isner. Next, we move on to Tommy Robredo against Roger Federer. For those of you that are even thinking about the match at the U.S. Open between these two, where Robredo took out Federer in straights, you can leave the room now. That's not going to happen again, I assure you. Federer, there is no way he's losing to Robredo again in a major in the fourth round. And this is a different story than that match was because that was hard court. And again, Robredo this year, a 4-set over Lucas Lachko, a straight set win over Adrian Manarino, average wins, and a 5-set over Jerzy Janowicz, which is relatively impressive, but at the same time, come on. Janowicz doesn't have the game Federer does, obviously, by the difference in Grand Slam titles and career titles. Yeah, I think Fed's going to go through this one because superior movement on grass, bigger forehand, bigger serve, bigger backhand. Yeah, Fed's got this one. Next, we'll see Bolelli taking on Kei Nishikori. That match actually did get underway. And right now, looking at that match, Bolelli is currently tied with Nishikori 3-all in the fifth set. I think that the rest, though, gives Nishikori an advantage, being the superior player to come back and play some better ball. I give Nishikori the edge, and I think that he will come back, and I think he will ultimately win this match, which means that will set him up to play Milos Raonic. I said this would be the matchup in the fourth round last week, and I'm going to stick with my pick. Raonic has too many guns, too many weapons. Nishikori, again, a 5-setter, and then the fact that that match didn't complete, it means he's going to have a shortened rest period between the match with Bolelli and the match with Raonic. I got to give a huge edge to Raonic because of that and the serve and the big forehand that Raonic has. And it looks like he lost weight and he's playing a lot better in the back of the court. Next we have Grigorius against Nadal. This Grigorius kid, again, is the kind of player that can beat Nadal. Big serve, big game, and emotionally doesn't give a shit. You look at the guys that have upset Nadal the last few years in the big tournaments. Soderling at the French. Big serve, big forehand, doesn't give a shit. Steven Darcis was the same way at Wimbledon last year. Lucas Rossell the year before that. And other guys that have given Nadal trouble in majors. Big serves, big forehands, don't give a shit. And other events too. There's a reason why those guys give Nadal trouble, because he doesn't intimidate them, because they're not scared of him, and because he knows that if he doesn't hold his serve, he can lose. However, though, what's good for him is a pattern that I've noticed. If he makes it through the first 3 to 4 days of Wimbledon, he's fine, because that means he probably won't play again until the second week starts, and by then the wear and tear in the baseline means it's almost like a clay court. But I'm going to say that Nadal will win, but I think it's going to be really tight. And the fact that Grigorius has played so well, I think Nadal would beat him in 4 really tough sets. It's going to be really tough, but I think he gets through it. And that means he will be playing against Milos Raonic, and in the top half, Federer will take on John Isner. This matchup is very problematic for Federer because even if you look at the head-to-head, between these two, hang on a second. Isner took him out in the Davis Cup. And other than that, Federer has more or less had his number. But they did play on grass a couple years ago, and Federer was given a tough test, 6-4, 7-6. Not an easy win by any stretch. But at the same time, Isner beating Lopez and Wawrinka, or whoever comes out of that section, is going to be tough for him because Federer's the kind of guy that can return Isner's serve and is going to be tough to break. Equally as tough as Lopez and Wawrinka. So that's going to make a tough matchup for him, and also the fact that Federer comes forward. I will say that Federer will beat Isner, I think, in 4 sets. Now I move on to the bottom one, Raonic-Nadal. Offense versus defense, Raonic versus Nadal. It's going to be a tough matchup, really, for Nadal, because Raonic, big serve, big forehand. Nadal, more overall built, more steadily built overall. I think this match right here is going to be the coming out party of Milos Raonic. I do. I think that this match right here is the one where Milos Raonic introduces himself to the world. I believe he's going to take Nadal out. And here's my reasoning. Raonic made the quarters of the French Open. And honestly, you think that's not really impressive considering what does that have to do with this? He's moving well. You don't make the quarters of the French Open by being a shit mover. You don't do it. There have been guys, like even Pete Sampras and other players of that sort who never won the French, who made an occasional somewhat run at the French, even Patrick Rafter, were half-decent movers. Milos Raonic is a big serve with a big forehand and is actually a really good mover, and his backhand has improved much over the course of this year. He's number 8 seed for a reason. He is good on grass. And I know his wins over less than intimidating opponents doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, but think about it. When he's been in a tough jam, he's gotten himself out. And think about it. Martin Klizon, Lucas Rossell, and Mikhail Kukushkin and Nick Kyrgios are the guys that Nadal will have played to get to this point. They don't hold a candle to Raonic. And also, you got to keep in mind that Nadal has not returned well this tournament. And Raonic just so happens to be one of the 2 or 3 biggest servers in the game. Let's not forget, in the tournament and when he first really bursted on the tour, he played a tournament in Memphis in 2011 against Roddick and lost in the final. He clocked a serve that he missed at 154 miles an hour. That's all you need to know about how big the guy can throw back, can reach back and hit one. I'm going with Raonic in 4 to take out Nadal. And that will mean a semifinal bout with Federer. Difference in players. Federer, has historically done much better against bigger servers, has had to play a greater variety of them than Nadal has. Nadal's used to picking on undersized grinders. Federer's had to play guys like Karlovic and Roddick, even Sampras, and other guys from the previous generation that were big servers. Lubicic, even Ivanisevic a few times, Ancic, more than the guys like Nadal have had to. And he's had to do so more frequently on grass. His return is better on grass than Nadal's. I give Federer the green light into the final against Djokovic. And this year's for the title, I'm looking into the future. It'll be a rainy day in England. They will close the roof. The court will be indoor conditions. Federer defeats Djokovic in 5 sets. 6-3 in the 5th. Match point, a forehand winner. Federer claims his 8th Wimbledon title. That's how I see it playing out. My reasoning is this. Looking at Federer this tournament, again, not great competition. But he's got a less intimidating road ahead than Djokovic does. Tsonga is much more intimidating than Robredo. Wawrinka or Isner is probably a little better than Cilic. And Nadal has not looked good. And you look at the fact he could potentially draw Murray or Dimitrov in the bottom half. From the bottom half to the top half. If Djokovic could. That's a lot more intimidating than Nadal. Djokovic has a tougher road in the final. He supposedly injured himself earlier in the match, I think against Muller. But at the same time, not at Muller, but against Simone. But at the same time, Federer has the ability to get through his matches without expending much energy. Robredo, Isner, and potentially Raonic or worn-out Nadal, that's got to be one of the easiest roads to a Grand Slam final that he's had in the last few years. I take Federer to get there with more rest. I still think that Djokovic is going to be there, but I believe that Federer is going to upset him. I hope everybody enjoyed this. This is just my take on how I think things will play out. So, sure to get at me. My contact information should be on my Spreaker profile, so be sure to check that out. If you're listening on Facebook, comment. If you're listening on Twitter, be sure to tweet back at me. But thanks, and have a good one, guys.